Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Heritage Hip Hop. I ask that you like, subscribe, share, and comment on this video. Please be sure to support Heritage Hip Hop by going to heritagehiphop.com. View Heritage Hip Hop wherever you get your podcast and streaming desires met. We are on YouTube, Anchor, Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. I ask that you visit heritagehiphop.com. Check me out on them streams. Leave some comments, please. Please leave some comments and let the world know that Heritage Hip Hop is here. And not only that, share. Let everybody know that we're around. Salute. So one more time before we get this show started, like, subscribe, and share Heritage Hip Hop on YouTube, Anchor, Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, wherever you get your streaming podcast needs met. Check me out on YouTube. If you're on the Facebook, thank you for checking in. Hit the like button. Check me out on YouTube. Hit the like button. I want to hit the algorithm. Today's show, Black History Month. And we're going to talk about the importance of Black History Month. So without further ado, let's get this show started. And here we go.
So let it be written. So let it be done.
Peace and blessings, and welcome to Heritage Hip Hop. Today's topic is Black History Month. And before I get into this, I'd like to say to everybody who supports Heritage Hip Hop, thank you for watching. Being a content creator is very hard when you don't have your own studio, because I have to deal with family and a little one that comes over and causes havoc and being around a very crowded place. I don't have my own place yet, but that's in the future plans. And for anybody who's frustrated when things don't go so, let's just say, on time, I apologize and thank you for watching Heritage Hip Hop. But today's topic, let's show the flyer again, is Black History Month. The world is yours. And I wanted to focus on Black History Month because there's a lot of videos out of people saying that they don't want a Black History Month anymore. And there's people out who says Black History Month is very important. So I wanted to give my take on Black History Month and then just focus on why it is important as opposed to why some people feel it's not. Now, for everybody who knows the history, Carter G. Woodson wanted to do Black History studies. America at the time did not want to do it. It went from Black History Week to the students of the SCLC and others pushing for a Black History Month. It was in the month of February because Black History Week was in February, and et cetera, right? And I was watching other videos of people from around the world. In Brazil, I think Black History Month is in November. In Japan, they don't really do Black History Month, but the people who are Black in Japan get together and do like social events to bring themselves together because they make up 2% of the population of immigrants in Japan. They said Japan's immigration is 10%. Of the 10%, 80% of those are other Asian nations, and they only make 2%. So that's very, very small in the total landscape of the population. And Brazil, Japan, England, and all these other places is people of color all over. Black History Month is something that comes around once a year for most people who are of color. And I think, in my opinion, Black History Month is taken for granted. And we need to really use our time and efforts to really focus on Black History Month. Really. I mean, think about it. I don't know how many of y'all are in the education system or even really go into the education of their children and the curriculums that they're learning, but schools don't teach Black History Month that much anymore. You know, I was asking some. I remember when my stepchildren were in school, I would ask them questions of Black history, and they barely knew Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X. I was appalled. They taught them more about King Tut. They taught them more about Egyptian and things that happen overseas, but they really didn't teach them about things that happen in this country. And I remember being in school, everything was about slavery. We first came here slaves, and then, we had to fight for freedom, and people got killed, and then the Underground Railroad and Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, freedom, what was emancipation from Abraham Lincoln, which was a lie, and all this other stuff. We didn't learn much about Black history from school. So we had more things going on at the time, but without Black History Month, a lot of us would not have known how special brown-skinned people in this country are and how much they contributed to the building of this country. I mean, let's just be very blatantly honest right now. If it wasn't for Black History Month, a lot of us would never have found the Black Panthers. A lot of us would never have found Malcolm X. I mean, a movie came out, thank you, Spike Lee, but, considering Malcolm X was considered a traitor by the Nation of Islam at one time, I don't think we ever would have really learned about his story too much without the book being written and turned into a movie. We learned about Booker T. Washington and Webb Du Bois, like I said, but there's a lot of things in Black history that we don't know about, and that people are slowly starting to be conscious of right now due to the technological or the knowledge age that we're in, where people are able to use their phones. See, when I was in school, hip hop taught us Black history. Hip hop was the voice of the people. So I remember a song by KRS-One called "You Must Learn" that talked about how the men in the Bible were men of African descent and had brown skin. That was mind blowing at the time because people didn't talk about those subjects in mainstream media. It was mostly, let's talk about Dr. Martin Luther King, I have a dream, and that's it. Let's talk about Rosa Parks because she gave way to Martin Luther King, and that's it. Hip hop for me taught Black history in a way where it was saying that we are in control of our fate and destiny, and it's up to us to find that knowledge. So through KRS-One, through Public Enemy, Fight the Power, if y'all know Rebel Without a Pause, It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Black, Fear of a Black Planet, there was mainstream hip hop that was telling us who we are as a people. And Black History Month, coupled with those songs, led a conscious effort in the community to see all people of brown skin learn who they are, how we benefit the world, and what we give to the world at that. Let's be honest. Pardon for the phone call. Let's be honest. At this time in life, we really got a lot of love from the people who we looked at for education purposes. Not only that, but entertainment purposes. We had edutainment. We had the street knowledge movement. We had the 5% movement. We had people who were out giving not only real life to us in the street, but we had people that was giving us the real when it came to history, politics, content, structure of how to build a community. At this time in our community, we had shows like A Different World. We had The Cosby Show. Much as y'all may hate Bill Cosby, I gotta give him credit. The Cosby Show showed us life isn't always just the hood. It was families. You could be a doctor. You could be whatever you wanted to be when it came to life. Everybody didn't have the mother-father structure. Everybody did not have the two-parent home and everything. Everybody didn't have siblings. Cosby Show showed us something different. Another important show that we had was A Different World, where A Different World showed us episodes where not only your brown skin meant something, it showed us that being a person of brown skin meant you had an opinion, and that opinion had the right to be heard. Pardon me from looking down. I'm trying to share this so more people can get on. You know what I'm saying? Part of knowing about your history and hip hop culture when it came to Black history was we saw the value of a fellow man and woman when it came to life. When it came to Black history, we saw not only could you be a person of color in a country that doesn't like you, but you could be a person of respect to people who don't look like you. Let me paint the picture for you. In today's world, we have this thing called passport bros, where men are tired of being played out by women and women are flying overseas to find traditional women, right? Back in the day, that wasn't such a case. Back in the day, more men and women were fighting to be together than to be separate. So back in the day, the songs that we heard were men talking highly of women. How many of y'all remember Shaquilla by the Poor Righteous Teachers? Wake up from all your savage dreams, thinking that she's yours, not mine. Buying earrings and no silly chains. You know, it's just a waste of time. The queen is mine. That man was singing his heart out to about a girl that meant the world to him. Unfortunately, with the way the world has going, more people are so consumed with sex, and people are so consumed with sex that the era of appreciation seems to have died. And that's what Black History Month brought to a lot of people. It was the era of not only being accepted, but it was the era of appreciation. People were wearing dashikis and funny ass little hats and shit, kufis or whatever, right? And the women had their hair braided and all this other stuff. You know what I'm saying? And and we had people really going hard for each other. See, back in the day, hip hop was a voice for people recognizing who we are because we fought a common enemy. And the enemy was the mainstream that did not want to accept us. So Public Enemy, Paris, X-Clan, Brand Nubian, Poor Righteous Teachers, all that was established because, especially during this time for Black History Month, we had music to counteract the people who believe that we ain't shit or we don't mean nothing in this world. And unfortunately, people have gotten the money aspect of what's going on today so confused that they rather fight themselves to be the number one man or woman in their situation instead of seeing the building of the community as a whole. And that's why I think Black history is important, because sometimes you need to reset. You know how in church or in a mosque or in a temple, they always say you live your week, but you come back to reset. Black history is important because sometimes we need to reset. With all this weave and stuff going on, how many people know about the invention of the hot comb and how women didn't wear weaves back then, but when they wanted to do their hair, they did it a certain way? You know what I'm saying? Shout out to my man, Mr. McCaston. That actually happened. That's indeed Eddie Murphy Raw. Shout out to Eddie Murphy. And once again, that's still appreciation of a woman. You see what I'm saying? Shout out to my man who remembers Shaquilla from the Poor Righteous Teachers. Afros and medallions was big in that time. That's right. The hair movement was big. Our expression, intellectual conversation, Black freedom, basically hood neighborhood news. That's right. That's what it meant to us back in the day. Shout out to King Son and Brand Nubian. We had the whole, we need to be together to do this together thing. And that's what I think Black history is very important. Well, it's been very important. Because I'll tell you now, working in schools, in different schools, and walking around to different schools, I can tell y'all, Black history is not taught no more. It's not. It's not. And people barely want to talk about Dr. Martin Luther King. And you know why? It's not that the teachers don't want to do it. You know what it is? The leadership in the schools have changed to where a lot of people don't want to be the leaders that take people there, number one. Number two, teachers are put in a hard position. A lot of paperwork. Got to get your paperwork done. Gotta get your paperwork. Make sure you follow this. Make sure you follow that. And Black history is an add-on. See, in some schools, depending on where you're at, and I'm in New Jersey, some schools, they don't want the kids to learn ABCs, numbers. They barely want them to learn how to write, sight words, reading. They don't want that anymore. They don't want you to teach about the weather. They don't want you to teach about clothing concepts unless it's a study, pardon me. All these things are erased from school. So when these things are erased, what do we do to teach the children the importance of who we are? Because most brown-skinned people in this country are so traumatically affected by the world that they live in that a lot of them don't take the time to teach the children because they're dealing with their own stuff. You don't believe me? How many parents are up willing to help their children do homework when they just come home from their job and their job has pissed them off and taken them way off of course? Think about that. If you're watching, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe and share this because everybody needs to see this. Salute. So let's be honest. I was talking to some friends of mine. Shout out to Nas the Romantic, Big DJ Big A, my man Simply Put, who's Jarnell W on here. Shout out to all of them because you know what? We were talking about the importance of Black history, and we were talking about how back in the day you had more things that were given to help aid the teaching of Black history. It's my man Shake said teachers just want a paycheck and to get a pension. Ain't happy, but my lady different and I'm different. Well, salute to you. Thank you. That is true in a lot of aspects. My man Janella says the school to prison pipeline. We'll talk about that later. All right. But Black history is bigger than just what we can learn in school. What's that? Learn just enough to be a wage slave for the white man. That's even deeper than that if you actually think about it. But a lot of people don't understand that your history is more than just what you see on television. It's actually going somewhere. It's going out to have these conversations to show the children what it means to be who we are and to understand what we overcame to survive in the world that did not want us in it. Listen, there's history books written about slavery, but there's also history books that talk about rebellion and uprising. In school, we never were taught about the uprising of the slaves. We were just taught that people was kidnapped from Africa and they were just brought here. I would love to talk to some African people about how slavery was taught in their country, because a lot of them saying that was a false narrative and that didn't happen. They weren't taught that. That's not something that was given. They were taught that people infiltrated their land and they got kicked out. Let's talk about that for a second, because there's also a movement going on right now that says people of African descent that we call each other are now called foundational Black Americans, were the Native Americans who were here. Check the history of the Seminoles, the Cherokees. Check the history of the Lenape Indians in New Jersey. Let's talk about that. Those are the things that should be talked about in Black history, because learning your faith, learning your worth, learning your ancestral descent or ascent to the life that you're in now does wonders for children. Black Panther was a revelation to a lot of children that they can be heroes too. Michael Jordan in the NBA was revelation to Black children because they could see athletes. Unfortunately, on the negative side, the drug dealer was something to look up to young black boys because they saw somebody getting money. Even in those times, and while the Cosby Show I say is important because it taught us history of jazz and showed us family, a lot of us don't see the Black doctor, the Black lawyer, highly publicized in the news or in the community. We don't see the Black police officer that does right by the community. We only see Black officers who kill Black men in the news, correct? R.I.P. to Tyree Nichols. We only see men of color being bastardized as the step and fetch it, the mostly homosexual aspect of men on TV, or the joke of the program. And we don't see strong Black men. We see the women take over. And I'm not saying women don't have a place in Black history, but we need to build our community evenly. For as much as we talk about Dr. Martin Luther King, which we should talk about. For the young ladies, we do need to talk about Asada Shakur, Fannie Lou Hamer. We need to talk about, and that's my favorite one, Fannie Lou Hamer. We do need to talk about those women who stood strong for the community. You see what I'm saying? We should talk about Tamika Mallory and My Son. We should talk about people that's out there on the front line doing things in the community. We should talk about what Black Lives Matter means rather than the corporation that did not fight for the betterment of Black people, but for the agenda of sexuality, which is crazy. I invited Doggy Diamonds to come on Heart Heritage Hip Hop because him and Karim Blizz Johnson actually do a show where they really talk about what's going on in the community. And I invited them on. You're going to see them on Heritage Hip Hop, Doggy Diamonds, for the second time. We're going to talk to them again because those conversations need to be had, because today's Black history needs to talk about the trauma that our people are going through and how we've overcome it. Social media has taught us there's more to Black history than in them books. And it's also been a gateway to show us that there's ways to beat the trauma that's come from around us. Trauma deals with the things that we entertain or things that we ingest, which is our mental diet. And a lot of us complain about hip hop, right? We always say hip hop is negative, hip hop is this, hip hop is that. Well, it really is not. Hip hop is still telling us what it is and what's going on in the community. Hip hop is still teaching us there's a lot of bullshit in the world going on and we have to address it. This Black History Month, 2023, Dr. Dre's The Chronic came back on streaming services. And there was a song, I mean, everybody knows Nothing But a G Thing. Everybody knows Let Me Ride. We know the singles. But there were songs on The Chronic that talked about street life and what would happen if all people of color got together. The Day the Ends Took Over and Lil Ghetto Boy is two songs that's lost on the Chronic LP that people don't talk about. And I was really thinking like, yo, even considered a hood gangster album, they still have positive messages on it. And even with all the stuff going on with drill music and everything, we still have people out there doing positive music, but it's up to us to put it out there. I want to quote Cardi B. Oh, let me see. Let me show you this. Shake said, I learned more after school than when I was in school about history of the original people. Pure facts. Because look, we didn't have 5% of class. My man said Black history builds racial pride. It sure does. You know what I'm saying? Just keep it real. Let's keep it moving. I lost what I was saying because my cat over here wilding. But once again, let's go back to the point. When it comes to entertainment, we now know that a lot of these record labels don't want to put out positive messages. And I want to quote Cardi B. Cardi B says whenever she puts out a song about positivity, that people don't respond to it. But if she makes a song about shaking her ass, everybody wants to run to it. Back in the day, see, I want to give a shout out to one of my favorite MCs that nobody talks about on my part of the land, and that's Ed O.G. Ed O.G. made a song called Be a Father to Your Child. We had messages like that could go with Black history because there was a narrative that no Black men stayed with families. As my man would say, no more James Evans Jr.'s. But there are so many men that are breaking their backs to do right by their sons, daughters, and even some of the women that they have that ain't worth nothing. You know what I'm saying? He says, I want Cardi B. I do want her to shake her behind too. But like I said, there's a lot of albums that were made to have positive messaging. And she says when she made a positive message, the people didn't want to hear it. They didn't spend money. How about this? There's an artist that came out. I remember her name. She said she made a whole bunch of songs that were positive for the uplifting of the community. And the record label shelved her and would not put her album out because she made positive songs. We can't have that narrative. We can't have that in the hip hop game, because if we accept that, then that means we put our fate in other people's hands just for the dollar. And like my man Shake said, we allow people to promote the negative image of Black people. Listen, the game is so twisted when it comes to who we are that not only do we not know, there's false narratives of us in the world that we have to fight and we don't even know about. For instance, do y'all know the story of Christopher Columbus? I'm sure you do, because you heard 1392, Columbus sailed the ocean blue, whatever, right? And you hear about how Christopher Columbus came and helped the Spaniards and everybody found America and the Pilgrims and right? Which is two different stories, by the way, right? How many of y'all knew that Christopher Columbus is taught to be a black man, a man of color overseas, but here he's a Spaniard? Did y'all know that? That's very, very interesting, because Christopher Columbus was not a man of color from what I remember and what I've looked up and researched. Yes, the Columbus lie, yes. And Christopher Columbus did a lot to destroy the people of this land. But guess what? Overseas, they show he's a dark-skinned man. And Christopher Columbus helped the Spaniards come here and take over dark-skinned people who are savages. That's something we need to learn in Black history. We learn about Carter G. Woodson and all that, but we need to learn about the things that were perpetrated that hurt us within this land. Shout out to Abyss. Abyss makes positive music. Abs the label, asking her. Wow. Well, all I can say is shout out to Abyss. Keep making positive music, and sis, you're always invited to come on the show. All right. Black History Month, once again, should be taught of what we overcame, not just certain people who did things. Because they teach us Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and I Have a Dream speech. Have y'all been listening to the political landscape nowadays? Have you not noticed that a lot of the racists that have lost seats are using the Dr. Martin Luther King Dream speech as a way to kill things like critical race theory and teaching real African American history in the classroom? And they're using the I Have a Dream speech when they say one day we will see little black boys, little black girls, little white boys, little black girls, whatever, hold hands in the same places. And they're saying that by teaching critical race theory, we're teaching people shame and teaching people how not to love each other, et cetera, and hate each other and and all that other bullshit. Have y'all noticed that? Well, check this out. A lot of people have been digging more into Dr. Martin Luther King and unearthing the first part of the I Have a Dream speech, talking about how America owes the black man a blank check. And a lot of what got Dr. Martin Luther King in trouble and Malcolm X in trouble was talking about Aborigines, Aboriginal people who were here whose land got taken, who look like us, or who are taken away from their people who's lost their land, who look like us, and now America owes them something, and that's when those people were getting taken out. Let's check out this. Shake says, I don't listen to no rapper today, no filming rapper. First of all, I'm just not in touch with what they're saying. I'm in the hip hop, not rap. Well, I'm going to tell you, you're losing a lot, because there are great people out there who have great messages. My man Nas, the romantic Nas 128 said, Vernon Thompson, the Joe Clark tape. Yes, check that out. It's a song on Amazon, I believe. Steve McCaster says CRT, critical race theory equals white shame, allegedly. To those who are guilty, yes, it does, because they're learning about their grandmothers and grandfathers and they can't take it. Yes. Not to mention Dr. Martin Luther King's last speeches. Yeah, yes, indeed. Because the funny thing is, if we don't really learn the history, we don't get to learn about the people who made great strides in this society. You know what's funny? In Black history, we always learn about the people from the South, but we never hear about the people from New Jersey, New York, Chicago, Montana, Vermont. We don't learn about the people up here who did great things. And that's important to the people who live here. Because if we don't connect the history to the people that's here, then we actually lose a lot of our identity of being up north, and it's always a north-south thing. That's very important. I mean, for the modern era of children who play video games, I was a man of color who made the video game cartridge and brought video games home. Is that a big deal? Sure, because it was used to video games have been used for educational purposes until recently, I guess. But yes, you have that. We have the vending machine. We have I forgot the person who did the vending machine, but y'all need to check that out. We have so many contributions to the world that it shouldn't not just be south to the north. It could be north to the south. Canadians to America. A lot of our people went from the this land to Canada. If you really look at what our land really was before colonialization, from Mexico to Canada, which is called North America, was called Turtle Island. And people travel all through those those land masses. So the people that we call Mexican, they are our people here in this country. If you are indigenous to this country, I believe I am, doing family history. Florida, before everything went from New Orleans, which is French, and everything with Napoleon and them coming over here doing stuff, and the Spaniards going through Mexico and terrorizing people and turning them into Catholics and all that. We talk about the Tainos and the Arawaks and the different tribes that were here. We had a cultivation of people that were very, very rich in religion, science, technology, all recreational means that people use now. A lot of smoking weed and pipes and all that. Unfortunately, I hate to say it like that, but it came from our culture, because a peace pipe is when you smoke the blunt with somebody that you had reverence with, and y'all after you share the meal. Some people use it in religious practices, but they just teach you that gets high and it makes you sick, marijuana and all that other stuff, and that's bull. Well, there you go. Shake comes back. He says, my niece is teaching in Atlanta, and they literally told her that the race theory don't talk about what was done bad to people. No, we're going to talk about everything. All right, well, maybe that's true. Maybe that's not. I have to talk to her. I mean, I could take your word for it. My man Shake never lied to me. But that goes back to the point of why this month is important, because the information could be given, and it has to come out to give our children a fighting chance to have pride in themselves and to know who they are. See, when I was younger, 1980s, I remember going to McDonald's, and they used to give us those Black History tapes, and you put them in your tape deck, and you could hear things for Black History Month. See, McDonald's even gave Black History information out. Now they just want to give you meat paste and clog your arteries. You know what I'm saying? I remember going to the barber shop, and they had the Black History calendars. Y'all see those anymore? Because if y'all do, please get me one, because I want to show one on here. We used to have the Black History calendars that used to show people in the hood that we didn't know about. It was more about, see, when Black History comes out, it's always people who got killed and athletes. Then we start seeing men and the women, and it started to expand and get bigger. Jack Johnson, Muhammad Ali, Dr. J, Michael Jordan, Oprah is always given. We get those people, but when we learned about Mary McLeod Bethune, Shirley Chisholm, shout out to hip hop once again, because nobody beats the Biz. Biz Marquis talked about voting for Shirley Chisholm when she ran for the president of the United States. We learned about that. We learned about there's so many people, y'all, and I'm drawing a blank because there's so much information, but that's wonderful, and we need that. Now in the music industry, we got more people getting power, but we don't hear about the women in power. So Sylvia Robinson would be a great story for the young ladies who want to learn how to build a label. Why not learn about her? Why not learn about Josephine Baker or anymore? Why not learn about Angela Davis anymore? Joan Chesimard, all of them. Why not? Why not learn about the people who made a difference in this world, bigger than just the athlete or the drug dealer? Why are we learning about Rich Paul and LeBron James business-wise, not just sports-wise? Why are we not giving these young children out nowadays who are becoming millionaires by starting their own businesses? There's a young little girl. I want y'all to look her up. She started a lemonade company. She's like 11 years old, a multimillionaire with a lemonade company that sells lemonade. She made in her kitchen with her mom in stores. Or what about the little boy who liked bow ties, and he made bow ties, and he retired his mother in her 30s because his bow tie brand got so big? That's Black history. Unfortunately, in Black history, all we hear about is assassinations. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, the three men from the SCLC who got killed by the police, the white guy, the Jewish guy, and the brother, or the white woman who got killed at them times in the car. That's all we hear about. Medgar Evers, rest in peace. There's so many people who were killed that we don't know about. You know what I think? We should really go with our children on social media and find these pages that teach Black history. I'm going to give y'all some. There's some that I'll look at. If you ever saw Mr. Crime, is Mr.Crim3. He is a spokesman for Black history. You know, that's something that I believe we should talk about, or we should get people to really understand that there's more people out here that talk about the history of our people and not just see somebody shaking the ass all day, because people are so oversexed with looking at someone shaking their behinds that they turn their brains off to what actually is going on. My man Jarnell says he looks at the ministers of defense. Put them up there. Let's talk about it. You know what I'm saying? Let's put that information out there so people know that there are more people out here that talk about more than just sex. It has to be. Let's see. I'll look at I have a page on my Instagram, right? Because you know Instagram is the devil, because you see titties all day, right? I even got a friend that every time I talk to him on the phone, he always, goddamn, look at ass, goddamn. And you be like, bro, come on, man. Like, it has to be more on your timeline. But maybe there's not. I can't front. Maybe there's not. And I'm going through mine now. I go to the Savoy Show, THSAVOYSHOW. They give you some stuff on Black history. Pop the Brown Hornet. He was an MC from GP Woo. He gives you information about Black history. Dang, it's so much. And the Shade Room, I don't really think they do much. I'm going through my timeline now. But look for Black history context on TikTok and on Instagram. You find more information on TikTok and on Instagram than you do in any history book when it comes to people doing Black history research. Oh, here we got another one. The Voice of the Ancestors. That's another one. Thank you for chiming in, bro, because we need that. My man Shake says, they only want us to watch TV and promote negative images. Black people television televised visually. Oh, that's what God said. God said to his people, who I think we are, he said that our eyes have to be always programmed on righteous things. You know what I'm saying? That's one thing that they did. They gave us a drug called the television to take our minds off of things. You know what I'm saying? And when you find positivity, and you know it, when you find positivity, it's hard to let it go. It's very, very hard to let it go. I remember being a young man, and I told everybody, my favorite documentary series of all time is Eyes on the Prize by PBS Documentaries, right? Eyes on the Prize is an award-winning documentary of a Black America from 1955 to, I think, 1983. So they go from Emmett Till to Reaganomics. Let me tell you something. That's one of the best produced documentaries ever, with pictures, video, speeches, everything that you need to start your way into learning about who we are and our people. The Black Panther story is so deep. And when you see what happened to Fred Hampton, if that don't hit your heart, there's a problem with you. Very seriously. Amiri Baraka, shout out RIP to Amiri Baraka, father of Ross Baraka, mayor of Newark, New Jersey. Great man, poet laureate, who fought for the rights of the people. We talk about Langston Hughes, Zora Neale Hurston, Maya Angelou, James Baldwin, and they're all deserving. Amiri Baraka needs to be in there too. You know, and so many others. How many of y'all know about Stokely Carmichael, returned to Kwame Ture? We need to talk about him. We need to talk about Dick Gregory. We need to talk about Dr. Phil Valentine. We need to talk about Dane Calloway, Dr. Sebi. We need to talk about all these people who go hard for our people and that Black history should really focus on. Some people, like, you know, because people have enemies in the game. They don't want to stand with certain people because they don't like how they doing their thing. But let me tell you something. Roland Martin and the Black Star Network, we need to support Roland Martin. We need to support people like that takes news people to task for lying on the news about us and our people, so we know what the hell is going on in the media. Shake says 2 companies that was Sharp TV did the bow tie and eliminated. Okay. Nas said the Black Power mixtape, dope DVD. So that's another resource, y'all. Check that out. He also said Stokely was that guy. Yes, he was. Yes, he passed away not too long ago, or a while ago. Salute to Kwame Ture. You know what I'm saying? But there's so many people out there. The ISIS papers, Dr. Francis Cress Welling. Listen, read that. Read the ISIS papers. Those are very important documents that you should have in your history. See, a lot of us, because we're the hip hop generation, we want to read books about Luke and Raekwon and Chef and Scarface and Angie. Do that. But also let the power of the book take you somewhere. Because the biggest self-help book you can read is not The Secret. The biggest self-help book you can read is anything that pertains to your history and how you perceive yourself. Because if you don't know your past, you don't know where you're going. And you don't know history repeats. Check this out. We just lived through the COVID era of the United States, right? 2000 to 2022 or 2019 to 2022. And still going on today, right? This same thing happened in 1920, which was the Spanish flu, and they blame Spanish people for this, right? What happened in 1820? Or ask yourself this, what's going to happen in 2118, 2119, 2120, and so forth? I'll be dead and gone. I don't got to worry about that. But what about our future generations and kids? What about them? This is why this Black history thing is so important. See, I've seen the critics talk about why we don't need a Black history because they don't want Black people relegated to 1 month. Well, that's your fault if it is, because then you need to teach that to your children and everybody all the time. And the month is just a highlight of what you've been taught or what you're teaching. A lot of people say, well, Black history is American history. You're right. But if we're letting people censor the history that's being told, who's going to tell our story? How many of y'all seen that BS they did with Michael Jackson with Flex? Or they had a Caucasian man play Michael Jackson because he was light-skinned. That's telling the story the wrong way. How about this? There was a cop in 9/11 who was pulling people from the rubble, saving people. Brother, darker than me, but they had a Caucasian man play him in the movie about 9/11. Erasing history in real time. And we're letting people do this to us? We've seen people, what was it, Sam Smith, I think it was, who said Michael Jackson was overrated. And then they called this other guy the king of pop. There'll never be another king of pop besides Michael Jackson. That's his title. He lived with it, he died with it, and that's it. Everybody else comes after him. There are no more kings. We got people rewriting hip hop. Where hip hop starts with Eminem. Y'all didn't know that? Forget the Sugar Hill Gang. Forget Grandmaster Caz. Eminem didn't do this, so I don't blame him. But forget all that. Eminem is the beginning of hip hop. When if you actually realize it, Eminem on his Rock and Roll Hall of Fame speech gave shout outs to all the people who came before him. I don't blame him for what they do to him. I'll blame us for letting people use that narrative that they paint for him as what it is. Because that's wrong. My man said that's the Elvis syndrome. Well, yeah, we've seen that. Ray Charles even said that, shout out to Ray Charles, RP. He said how Black folks was doing everything Elvis did because he white and he did it. Now was something special? Please. That's letting the powers that be or the so-called majority make the rules. Come on, man. Think about it. There's going to be a day one day when Nas is going to be a white man in the movie or Jay-Z is. Please. We're not going to do that. Pistol Pete one day is going to be better than Michael Jordan. We're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. And that's why Black history is important, because we could give our children not only the stories of triumph, not only the figures of triumph, we could give them the picture, the movie, the first-hand account of what it means to have your history documented. The most severe act of warfare applied to our people was when the elders were killed off and the children had to raise the children. The elders were called the griots, and the griots were the libraries of the community. Right now, my griot is very old, and he's holding on to the best way he can. And he pulls out a trifold that shows the history of my family. And that's why I believe my family's more Native American than African, because he has the history. You see what I'm saying? And I know that my family goes back to a Native American princess named Fountain. And that goes into my family's bloodline. So I have a whole part of my history now I can't find, but at least I got that story. When the elders were killed off and the children had to be raised, they were raised in fear. The men were killed, and that soft shit came. But there were still warriors amongst the people who did not let people deter them for being strong and for our story to be told. Y'all heard about the Trail of Tears, right? Where the Native Americans had to leave their land. Why did they have to leave? Did you ever hear about the definition of the religion, manifest destiny, that says all others had the religious right to take over the world and subdue it? That's a biblical thing. First commandment in the Bible: be fruitful, multiply, resubdue the earth, and take it under your dominion. And their manifest destiny said, well, we're supposed to take over the world, take it over under our dominion. And look what happened. Righteousness didn't prevail because we let somebody take the narrative. Now it's time for us to take the narrative back through education, economics, protection, means of making a cohesive society and making it grow to the best of our ability. Somebody said on here, the village mentality. It takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to raise a child even today. Because now with the village not raising the children, everybody getting high, everybody's oversexed, everybody's being extra violent, and people are losing what it takes to be cohesive in our community. And that has to stop. So is Black history important today? You're damn right it is. Because if it wasn't, who's going to tell our story? It has to be us. Because if it's not, who's going to take charge when it's time for these young boys to go out into a world and become men? We live in a world where people are blowing these little boys' heads off. It was a little boy, I forgot his name, 12, 13 years old, got shot in the back by a white motorist. And the guy walked off. They went to arrest him, and he said he felt threatened, and the cops let him go. Murder. Tamir Rice, murder. So many other stories, murdered. These young Black boys. Look at these little girls. Who was the young lady in Chicago they found in the freezer? Or these people we have with their organs getting taken out of their bodies and nobody's doing anything. Or the Jewish rabbi who said they kidnapped these Black children, kill them, and put their bodies allegedly in the breakfast sausages and the meat in the fast food industry. And the Bible says in the last days, you will eat your children. Is that what's going on today? I don't know. But if we don't tell these stories and teach our children the real about the world around them, who knows what's going to happen to them? Don't even show up on the news. That's my man Ed Obese, dope-ass producer. Y'all need beats, check him out. But he's right. Our stories don't show up on the news. Kareem Abdullah was one of Newark's superheroes. Shout out to Kareem Abdullah. Let's tell his story on Heritage Hip Hop. Let's go. I'm here for all that. The point of the matter of this is, the name of this show is Black History Month. It's time for Black History Month. Does hip hop care? And the reason why I put the world is yours on the post is because at the end of the day, life is what you make it. And nobody in my life ever really taught me how important that those phrases and statements meant. I needed somebody to really guide me in certain aspects. And you know what? For the men that were in my life who did try, even in my ignorance, I thank them a lot. And there's one superhero I want to acknowledge for Black History Month. And I don't know if I'll ever see this man again. And his name was Paul McPleasant. Paul McPleasant ran St. Rocco's School in the summertime when I went to St. Rocco's in North, right? Basketball camps and all that, right? And Paul was one of the men who gave a damn about the community and the kids. Had a candy store, did the summer camps and everything. There's men in our community that still give a damn, and we need to highlight them. So salute to Paul McPleasant. I want to give a salute to Dupre Kelly, Do It All Do, from Andre Rainey, MC Noodle New. Two people who rhyme on stage. Do It All went around the world. Noodle did his shows and everything, and took their MC marksmanship to the political life. And they're fighting for our people through politics. I want to shout out everybody from the hood who they told couldn't be anything, who are now businessmen in the world. 50 Cent, Jay-Z, Nas, Steve Stout, Russell Simmons. Shout out to Oprah Winfrey. Shout out to Nick Cannon, Jay Prince, Luther Campbell, Rick Ross. So many people. And so many more. Shout out to Tariq Nasheed, whether you believe in him or not. Dr. Umar Johnson, whether you believe in him or not. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, Rizza Islam, Brother Ben X, all of them. And there's so many more. Tamika Mallory, my son. Anybody out there doing something to raise the consciousness of our people and give them the real. If we don't tell our story and don't give our children someone to look up to, look at, and be inspired by, then all we're doing is showing them the casket. Because in our ignorance, our oppressors will seem righteous, because their righteousness is not in only what they say, it's in what they do and how they take care of themselves and put us down. I will never be under a man's foot ever in my life. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you were inspired, and I hope you like this episode of the Heritage Hip Hop Podcast. Black history is very important. And I'm going to leave with this story. There was a time when the Martin Luther King holiday was not celebrated in this country. It was proposed, but never put into law. And the governor of Arizona said, we will not acknowledge the Dr. Martin Luther King holiday. So if you call off for work, basically that's your ass. And it was Public Enemy who came out with By the Time I Get to Arizona that showcased that story. And if you pay attention to the video, it was a declaration of war against people who did not want to acknowledge the greatness of that man. We have so many things that we are fighting for. Let us not lay waste to the strides that were made for our people to come up. Let's not crap on the people whose shoulders we stand on. Do your history. Get the books that hurt your feelings. Get the feel-good stories, but get them and share those stories. Because those Jewish people teach about the Holocaust and to keep themselves together, tight-knit, and to move forward. A lot of people don't talk about the pain of the lynchings, the assassinations, the drugs. They talk about the war on drugs, but don't talk about the people who implanted the war themselves. Lyndon Johnson, Richard Nixon, Jimmy Carter, the Reagan era, the Bush era. People don't talk about that and what the inner city looked like, and how hip hop and music not only numb the pain of being who we are, but it brought hope to our communities and the people that we've become today. We blame drill music. We blame trap music. But who's actually working with these generations to teach them? There's more out there than just what you see. Because if a lot of people don't leave their block to know there's a bigger life, how do we bring life to them so they can aspire to be better? We have to talk to them. We have to give them time and effort. And we definitely have to show others that love that we always wanted and the respect we always wanted from others. Let's show that to them so they'll show it to us, and we could bridge the gap and help our communities grow in the long run. I hope you like this show. Please like, subscribe, share, comment, follow Heritage Hip Hop on all social media. As always, I'm here to build. So let's build. Let's make our community great by making everybody aware that Heritage Hip Hop exists. Please subscribe to heritagehiphop.com. Like, subscribe, comment, and share. Let everybody know that Heritage Hip Hop is available on YouTube, Spotify, Anchor, Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio. I said YouTube, right? And everywhere you stream your podcast. If you want to help me out, you want to help donate to Heritage Hip Hop, my Cash App is $ Heritage Hip Hop. All right. You could go to Heritage Hip Hop and buy some merch, get some t-shirts, get some things, anything that helps this podcast continue. And also every Sunday we go live on Heritage Hip Hop, and we have another show that we do called A&N and R&B. A&N and R&B is with Nas the Romantic, DJ Big A, Nika Ladine, and myself for now. And, we talk about hip hop with an R&B twist. So for everybody out there that's watching, I thank you for watching with me. Peace. May the Most High bless you first and foremost. And I'm out.